to have that franchise, I look at it two ways. You can look at it as the hiller, the silliness, and the dress and the guy making everybody laugh.
Madea, the character that catapulted Tyler Perry from humble stage beginnings to Hollywood billionaire stardom, has long been adored by audiences for her humor sass and deep warmth. But few could have imagined that very persona, after years of silence, would become the voice exposing the most repulsive hidden corners of Perry's world. Behind the wigs, the tearful family stories, and the roaring laughter lies a dark reality he fought to keep buried. And now Madea is no longer just a character on screen. That symbol has spoken out, turning secrets into an information bomb capable of blowing up the entire Tyler Perry empire. Will this truth forever bury his Hollywood glory? Hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and stay with us as we uncover the full extent of this chilling secret. Scandal erupts. Derek Dixon's shocking accusation. From chasing the American dream to basking in the spotlight, Tyler Perry had become the man many believed to be untouchable. But then, with a single court filing, that image exploded like a bomb at the heart of Hollywood. And what's most striking is that this bomb didn't come from a seasoned critic or a veteran star, but from a young face, Derek Dixon, who had appeared in two of Perry's hit series, The Oval and Ruthless. On June 11, 2025, Dixon filed a lawsuit against Perry with the Los Angeles Superior Court seeking $260 million in damages, a figure that stunned the entire American entertainment industry. But what shocked and enraged the public even more were the specific detailed allegations Dixon laid out, from sexually suggestive messages and unwanted touches to calculated retaliation by killing off his character on screen. These were no longer rumors. They were formal accusations submitted to the court and reported widely by major media outlets. According to Dixon, Perry had repeatedly sent him messages promising more screen time and even a career breakthrough if he would reciprocate Perry's affections. As producer and director, Perry controlled the entire storyline and casting of the show. This left Dixon trapped in an impossible dilemma: either comply or be sidelined. Dixon recalled a time when his boss unexpectedly entered a room wearing only underwear and laid down on the bed next to him. On another occasion, Perry pretended to be checking his weight, but placed his hand on Dixon's thigh, forcing him to stand there in nothing but underwear. These moments, both humiliating and haunting, made Dixon feel unsafe in what should have been a professional environment. Perhaps the most disturbing detail involved the character Dale from The Oval. Dale, beloved by fans, was the role that finally gave Dixon some recognition after years of struggle. But in one episode, Dale was abruptly shot dead 4 bullets. Dixon believed this wasn't a creative decision, but calculated retaliation for his rejection of Perry's advances. "I felt like I was being assassinated on screen, and it was a clear message that I had no future in the show," Dixon shared in his complaint. Beyond losing the role, Dixon also suffered severe psychological trauma. In an interview with ABC News, he broke down as he spoke of sleepless nights, persistent nausea, and stomach pain that lasted for months. Doctors diagnosed him with PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, stemming from the alleged harassment by Perry. "I once thought I was lucky to work with him, but it turned into a nightmare." Dixon said, his voice trembling. The interview clip went viral across TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter, drawing millions of views within just 24 hours. The big question: why did Dixon remain silent for so many years? The answer is simple, but chilling: fear. Perry wasn't just a director, he was an empire. With Tyler Perry Studios spanning 330 acres, he held the power to make or break anyone's career. Dixon estimated he lost about $400,000 in income when his character Dale was written off. He feared he'd be blacklisted if he spoke out. In fact, in 2024, Dixon had already filed a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, EEOC. But when the prolonged process led nowhere, he was forced to go public with a formal lawsuit. Perry's response was calculated and cautious. He made no public appearances, posted nothing on social media. Instead, attorney Matthew Boyd released a statement on his behalf. "These allegations are a complete scam meant to extort money. We will fight vigorously to protect Mr. Perry's name." Perry's silence quickly became a topic of speculation. Some believed it was a strategic move to avoid missteps, but many others saw it as a sign that he was unwilling to face the truth. Social media exploded. The hashtag #JusticeForDixon appeared alongside Madea Exposed, both spreading rapidly. Many declared they could no longer laugh at Madea, saying the once lovable grandma figure now felt like a facade. Meanwhile, Perry supporters fought back with Charbers' stand with Tyler, claiming Dixon was merely using the lawsuit for fame. Longtime fans were deeply divided. Some felt betrayed, others stood firmly by their idol. The media didn't miss a beat. People ran the headline, "Derek Dixon breaks his silence, exposes Tyler Perry." The Washington Post analyzed, "If true, this could be the most catastrophic fall of a black billionaire in Hollywood history." Reuters and AP published the full lawsuit, quoting passages where Perry was accused of harassment. Several outlets even compared Perry to Harvey Weinstein, the once untouchable mogul whose empire came crashing down. But perhaps the biggest shock came from loyal fans, those who had seen Perry as a symbol of resilience. To them, Madea was healing laughter, a symbol of family faith. Now, when they hear the name Madea, they no longer feel comfort, but revulsion. One viewer commented under Dixon's interview clip, "My whole childhood was tied to Madea. I can't believe that behind those floral dresses was a man capable of such things." From the moment Dixon firmly declared, "I'm not afraid anymore," Hollywood officially entered a new, deeply controversial chapter. His accusation didn't just tear down Perry's glamorous exterior, it ignited a firestorm of doubt that had long been smoldering. Because if the man once praised as the voice that brought black laughter to the mainstream could commit the acts Dixon described, who in Hollywood is truly safe? Dixon's story opens the door for audiences to revisit the rest, how Perry built the mighty Madea empire, and why this explosion has the power to shake the foundations of Hollywood. And that brings us back to the beginning. What did Tyler Perry do to rise from poverty to become a film billionaire? And why does that legacy carry so much darkness? Tyler Perry and the Madea Empire. After the explosive impact of Derek Dixon's accusations, the public began to truly reflect and ask, how could someone like Perry hold so much power that a young actor remained silent for years? To understand that, one must examine the extraordinary journey of Tyler Perry and how he built an entire empire around the character of Madea, a figure that served both as a cultural pride and a powerful shield for himself. Tyler Perry was born in 1969 in New Orleans to a poor family. His childhood was marked by domestic violence and the pain of being beaten by his father. From that suffering, Perry turned to writing as a form of emotional therapy. He wrote plays inspired by faith and the experiences of the Black community. In the early years of his career, Perry lived in his car facing repeated failures with plays that no one bought tickets for. But persistence helped him rise. When I Know I've Been Changed was restaged. Black audiences began to fill the theaters, finding in his work a shared sense of faith, pain, and hope. From small local stages, Perry brought Madea, the loud, hot-tempered but deeply loving grandmother, onto the big screen. His first film, Diary of a Mad Black Woman 2005, with a budget of just $5.5 million, unexpectedly grossed over $50 million at the US box office. It was not just a commercial success, but the beginning of Perry's transformation from a regional playwright into a top-tier Hollywood director, actor, and producer. In the years that followed, Madea became a cultural phenomenon. Medea's Family Reunion. 2006, Madea Goes to Jail. 2009, and Boo, a Madea Halloween 2016 all far exceeded box office expectations. Madea Goes to Jail alone earned over $90 million, becoming the highest-grossing entry in the Madea franchise. By 2019, when Perry announced a Madea family funeral as his farewell to the character, the total box office gross from Madea films had surpassed $1 billion worldwide. What began as a seemingly comedic role became a money-printing machine, helping Perry become one of the richest Black filmmakers in American cinema history. But Perry didn't stop at film. He moved into television and partnered with Oprah Winfrey, one of the most powerful women in America. Series like The Haves and The Have-Nots, 2013-2021, ran for over 190 episodes and became the most-watched show in the history of the OWN network. He also produced If Loving You Is Wrong, The Oval Ruthless, all filled with high-stakes drama that captivated audiences. Notably, Perry became known for his extraordinary production speed. In 1 year, he wrote more than 80 episodes of television in just a few months, astonishing Hollywood screenwriters. The pinnacle of Perry's power was the opening of Tyler Perry Studios in 2019 in Atlanta, Georgia. The studio spans 330 acres, larger than Warner Brothers in Burbank and Disney in California. It was more than just a film production facility, it was a symbol of a self-made black man, creating his own film city. Perry named the studio's 12 sound stages, after black legends like Sidney Poitier, Whoopi Goldberg, and Cicely Tyson. The grand opening drew the entire Hollywood elite from Beyoncé and Jay-Z to Oprah. Thanks to these achievements, Forbes officially declared Perry a billionaire in 2020, estimating his net worth at over $1 billion. He became a living testament to the rags-to-riches dream. For the black community, Perry represented hope. A man who once lived in his car now owned the largest film studio in America. However, behind the spotlight, cracks had already begun to form. Critics repeatedly slammed Perry's films for being formulaic, filled with stereotypes, and careless in makeup and set design. Black scholars fiercely debated his work. Some said he honored black culture, while others accused him of selling out black identity for profit. Perry fired back bluntly, "If you don't like it, don't watch." This revealed that the Madea empire wasn't built on money and talent alone, but also on Perry's absolute control. He didn't share power. He didn't allow others to rewrite scripts or interfere in production. Everything revolved around Perry, from content to staffing. As a result, Madea became both a source of faith and of fear. Faith because it proved a black man could stand shoulder to shoulder with Hollywood's giants. Fear because it showed Perry had the power to make or break the careers of hundreds of actors and workers. When the Derek Dixon scandal broke, the public suddenly understood this wasn't just a legal dispute between two individuals. It was a blow to an empire built on unchecked power. And because Perry was so successful, so wealthy, so dominant, any allegation against him was bound to cause an uproar. If Madea had once lifted him to the top, now that very persona and the empire it birthed had become the perfect backdrop for long-buried secrets to surface. The story of Perry and Madea is a paradox. The greatest cultural symbol became a mask, and now that mask has been torn away. As the public retraces Perry's path from poverty to billionaire, from small theater to sprawling studio, they can't help but ask, was that career built solely on talent and hard work, or also on shadows no one dared to name for years? Long-standing rumors and lingering doubts, once the public understood how Perry had built Madea and Tyler Perry Studios into a powerful billion-dollar empire, it became easier to see why rumors and suspicions about him had such enduring strength. That empire was too vast, too tightly controlled, and too dependent on a single man. And it was precisely that absolutism that created a vacuum, one that allowed public imagination to run wild behind the glittering spotlight. Was there always a darker world Perry deliberately kept hidden? From very early on, Hollywood critics never stopped voicing concerns about the quality of Perry's work. Articles in Variety and the New York Times repeatedly labeled his films preachy, monotonous, or even sloppy. Frizzy wigs, bare-bones sets, and implausible plot points became targets of mockery on social media. One viral meme read, "Perry can write 80 episodes in 2 months, but it only takes 8 minutes to see he doesn't need good writers." That seemingly harmless jab underscored a deeper truth. Perry was so obsessed with control that he seemed to disregard the contributions of others. Within the black community, the debate around Perry was even more intense. One side saw him as a hero who brought black representation into the mainstream and created jobs for hundreds of black actors and technicians. The other accused him of profiting from racial stereotypes. Sociologists noted that his characters often conformed to harmful tropes. Black women portrayed as nagging and suffering black men as weak or absent, and queer characters turned into comic relief. Critic Jelani Cobb once wrote, "Perry sells America a distorted version of blackness, and Madea is his most effective tool." Yet artistic controversy was just the surface. What truly raised concern were persistent rumors about working conditions behind the scenes at Perry Studios. Former employees left reviews on job sites like Glassdoor, and Indeed describing a grueling work environment with tight schedules, little time off, and unfair pay. Some actors said they didn't dare change even a single line of dialogue, fearing Perry might explode in anger and cut them from the show. There, everything runs Perry's way, and only Perry's one anonymous collaborator shared. This gave rise to the image of a dictatorial mogul. Whispers spread that Perry avoided working with big-name stars, those with enough clout to challenge him, and instead preferred young, lesser-known actors. It saved costs and kept everything under his control. But it also raised suspicion. Was Perry exploiting the dependency of young actors on their roles to manipulate them both professionally and personally? These rumors were never spoken aloud, but their constant repetition only deepened public belief in the old saying, "Where there's smoke, there's fire." Another key factor was the long-standing silence from Hollywood itself. Perry was so powerful that few dared to criticize him publicly. Anyone who did risked being excluded from massive productions in Atlanta. This silence only fueled the rumors because if there was nothing to hide, why did everyone avoid the subject? Over the years, those suspicions hovered like dark clouds over Perry Studios. At first, the public brushed them aside. Madea was too successful. Perry's films kept selling out, and he had become a billionaire. But as time went on, scrutiny grew. The Me Too era made audiences wary of powerful figures. After Weinstein and Cosby fell, people started to ask, what might Perry be hiding? And so every hallway anecdote, every negative review, every former employee's complaint became another puzzle piece in an increasingly troubling portrait. Even Madea, the golden face of Perry's empire, was dragged into the storm. Many viewers joked half seriously, Madea in real life must be even meaner than in the movies. Beneath the humor was a growing unease that Perry, cloaked in floral dresses and wigs, was hiding a completely different persona. Not a sassy grandma, but a cold manipulator. Madea, once a symbol of laughter, was beginning to morph into a metaphor for the mask Perry had worn throughout his career. None of these rumors and doubts were enough to convict Perry. But they were more than enough to leave the public uneasy, sensing that something just doesn't feel right. And that feeling is what made Derek Dixon's lawsuit so impactful, not just as a solitary allegation, but as the explosion that confirmed what many had quietly suspected for years. Because when a scandal breaks, it's not judged solely by courtroom evidence, but also filtered through decades of whisper and doubt. And that is perhaps Perry's greatest tragedy. He believed he had built an untouchable empire, but in reality, its foundations had long been eroded by countless whispers. The scandal wasn't the cause. It was the lightning bolt that ignited the smoldering fire. The domino effect, public Hollywood, and legal reactions. When Derek Dixon filed a lawsuit against Tyler Perry, Hollywood was instantly shaken. This wasn't just an ordinary civil suit. It was an explosion that ignited years of pent-up suspicion and rumor. The scandal quickly spread beyond one individual and became a social phenomenon. The media erupted with non-stop coverage, public discourse exploded, business partners wavered, and the entire entertainment industry was forced to confront itself. Within hours of the Los Angeles court confirming it had received, the filing platforms, like Twitter, now X, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram, were flooded with hashtags. Justice for Dixon soared to the top of the national trending list, while Sacher Madea exposed and Tyler Perry scandal spread rapidly. Fans split into two distinct camps. One side called it the next Weinstein and declared that Hollywood was entering a new chapter of the Me Too movement, this time with a male victim. The other, made up largely of Perry's loyal fans, pushed back fiercely. They insisted Dixon was exploiting the lawsuit to gain fame and squeeze money from a wealthy mogul. This divide wasn't limited to social media. It spilled into talk shows, podcasts, and late-night TV programs where Perry had long been a familiar guest. Mainstream media dove in aggressively. Reuters published the full lawsuit, AP reported every detail of Dixon's allegations, and the Washington Post analyzed the looming threat that a black cultural empire could collapse overnight. People and Entertainment Tonight aired special coverage continuously, even creating a full career timeline of Perry's rise to contrast with Dixon's claims. Dixon's emotional ABC News interview, in which he tearfully declared, "I'm not afraid anymore," garnered millions of views within 24 hours, and became a focal point not just in entertainment circles, but across the broader public. Meanwhile, Hollywood fell into an eerie silence. Virtually no A-list stars spoke out publicly in support of Dixon, nor did anyone dare defend Perry. This silence wasn't born of apathy, it was rooted in fear. Tyler Perry Studios, sprawling across 330 acres in Atlanta, has become a production hub for countless blockbusters from Black Panther to The Walking Dead. Opposing Perry meant risking one's entire career, as dozens of major and minor studios rely on his infrastructure. Rather than speak directly, many artists posted vague messages on Instagram like praying for justice. But this cautious restraint only deepened public suspicion. Did everyone know Perry wasn't clean? But no one dared to say it. On the legal front, Dixon's case was quickly dissected by legal experts. On CNN, a former prosecutor commented, "If Dixon has messages, emails, or witnesses, Perry is in serious trouble. But if it's just testimony, winning this case will be difficult." Some compared Perry to Harvey Weinstein, reminding viewers that Hollywood once considered Weinstein untouchable until he ended up behind bars. They warned that Perry might be heading down the same dangerous road. The greater the power, the harder the fall. Notably, Dixon revealed he had filed a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission (EEOC) in 2024. When that yielded no result, he left the Oval and was forced to pursue legal action in court. This detail added credibility to Dixon's claims he had tried the internal route before going public. It also raised questions about the EEOC's effectiveness, an agency meant to protect workers from harassment and discrimination, yet often seen as sluggish and hesitant in cases involving powerful figures. Meanwhile, Perry opted for total silence. He made no appearances, gave no interviews, and posted nothing on social media. His attorney, Matthew Boyd, issued a statement. "This is a fraudulent case completely fabricated, aimed at extorting money from a successful man." This silence divided public opinion. Some called it a smart strategy to avoid falling into a media trap. Others believed the silence itself was an admission of guilt. In American pop culture, when a star caught in scandal refuses to speak, the public often assumes they have something to hide. All of Hollywood is now waiting on the court's decision. But for the public, the verdict is already taking shape. Perry's image will never be intact again. Whether he wins the case or not, the trust is broken. And in an industry where public opinion can be stronger than the law, that may be the harshest sentence of all. Consequences for the Tyler Perry empire. The Derek Dixon scandal didn't just ignite a media firestorm. It struck directly at the core of the empire Tyler Perry had spent over 2 decades building. While the public was still struggling to distinguish fact from fiction, tangible consequences quickly emerged from his personal brand and the iconic Madea character to his billion-dollar studio and vast network of television and film contracts. First came the damage to his personal credibility. Perry had long been seen as the ultimate embodiment of the American dream for the Black community. A child who endured abuse, lived in his car, and rose to become a billionaire with a net worth exceeding $1 billion, Forbes 2020. But once the lawsuit was filed, that gleaming image was tarnished overnight. For some viewers, Perry transformed from an inspiring figure into someone mocked and distrusted. Late-night talk shows that once praised him began turning him into punchlines. A columnist for The Atlantic wrote, "If Derek Dixon wins, Perry will become the next name on the list of black moguls who fell hardest in Hollywood." The Madea character. Perry's personal cash cow also took a major hit. The loud, sharp-tongued grandma who had brought in over $1 billion at the box office was now attached to the hashtag #DrMadea Many fans admitted they could no longer laugh at Madea as the character had become tainted by the scandal. Some theaters screening a Madea family funeral to honor loyal audiences reported ticket sales falling nearly 40% below projections. Once a cultural icon loses public trust, revival becomes nearly impossible. The financial repercussions were equally stark. Perry holds major contracts with BET worth hundreds of millions, Oprah Winfrey's own network, and Netflix. But the scandal forced partners to reconsider. BET, heavily reliant on Perry's content, was reportedly reviewing its long-term deal. Netflix, while making no official statement, was predicted by analysts to scale back investments in new Perry-branded projects. Even commercial endorsements began to crumble. One major brand pulled out of a campaign involving Perry Studios just a week after the lawsuit was filed. Tyler Perry Studios. His proudest achievement also entered uncertain territory. Spanning 330 acres in Atlanta, it's larger than Warner Brothers in Burbank and Disney in California. The studio served as a filming location for blockbusters like Black Panther and The Walking Dead. But its very scale made the scandal more damaging. Any negativity could make studios wary of filming there. Industry sources reported that some partners had already started scouting alternatives for future projects, fearing audience backlash if a film were tied to Perry. If the trend continues, rental revenue, which has been a major profit stream, may plummet, turning a symbol of pride into a financial burden. Beyond direct losses, Perry now faces pressure from the very community that once saw him as a role model. For many Black audiences, Perry wasn't just an artist, he was proof that Black creators could own a piece of Hollywood. The Dixon scandal fractured that trust. Social organizations that once hosted Perry as a speaker, and universities that granted him honorary degrees, have gone silent, with some even removing his name from inspirational campaigns. A cultural studies professor at UCLA remarked, "Perry hasn't just lost personal honor, he's taken down the hopes of a community that believed in him." His relationship with critics also deteriorated further. Long disliked by critics for formulaic scripts and stereotypical characters, Perry suddenly found past criticisms being reframed as evidence. Many critics argued that Perry's alleged controlling behavior and creative laziness mirrored the manipulative traits described in Dixon's lawsuit. Rather than defend him, critics now position themselves as vocal opponents, ready to bury his image under a mountain of long overdue analysis. Fan division only deepened the tragedy. Half declared they could no longer laugh at Madea, while the other half stood by him, urging people to separate art from the artist. But in the entertainment world, division is fatal to collective trust. When a cultural brand loses unity among its audience, the path to redemption becomes nearly unreachable. Compared to past scandals, Perry's case is especially severe. Bill Cosby was once America's dad before he fell. Harvey Weinstein went from mogul to inmate. Both men shared common traits: enormous power, tightly controlled networks, and eventual collapse once survivors spoke out. Perry now finds himself caught in that same spiral. If Dixon wins, Perry may not face prison, but his career will be destroyed. If Dixon loses, Perry may retain his wealth, but his public image is already irreparably cracked. More importantly, the case reopens a bigger question for Hollywood. Why are powerful men allowed to remain silent for so many years? Why must it take a single brave victim for the truth to emerge? Perry was once celebrated as the pride of Black America, but now he has become a symbol of the dark side of unchecked power, that anyone, no matter how humble their beginnings or glorious their success, can fall into shadow. The consequences for the Tyler Perry empire go far beyond financial losses or personal reputation. They represent a crushing blow to public trust, to the legacy of Madea, and to the narrative of from nothing to everything. An empire once built on laughter and belief is now shaking under the weight of horrifying accusations. And the greatest tragedy lies in the paradox that Madea, the symbol that lifted Perry to the top, has now become the mask that leads audiences to wonder whether the entire empire was nothing more than a masterfully staged illusion. What do you think? Is this the end of the Tyler Perry empire, or just a dark chapter in an otherwise groundbreaking career? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the hottest behind-the-scenes stories that mainstream media rarely dares to touch. Your support is the driving force that helps us keep uncovering shocking truths and delivering the most in-depth analysis.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.